Monday, September 22nd at 6:33 p.m. And Rusty, I'd ask you if you could take roll call, please.
Pastor.
Here.
Snyder.
Here.
Sexton.
Here.
Pope.
Here.
Kirkwood.
Here.
Nevlin.
I'm gonna just basically open it up to general comments. Our attorney is here tonight, and I've sent Rusty and everybody some points or questions that I had thought about. I have contacted the Racing and Gaming Commission administrator a couple times and discussed some things with him. And as he said to me several times, he's not an attorney, he can't give me legal advice. And we're going to somewhat on our own as far as any kind of an agreement or contract that we want to make with the Riverside Casino. So, again, on that note, I'm going to just open up to the discussion, whoever cares to, of the council.
Sure, I'd like to ask Mr. Supel what his opinion of the whole matter is. That's kind of why I thought we were here.
Well, what do you mean, my opinion?
Well,
Tell me.
my questions on this whole deal was our legal means, our legal into this. What we actually can legally charge versus what we're getting. We had a discussion last week. Some say there's a 50 cent per head minimum. Some say there's not 50 cent per head minimum.
Yeah, and with regard to the 50 cent a head, I think it would seem that it is not applicable. This is not an excursion boat. But as I've been told, it's sort of on the water which may make it an excursion boat. I mean, I think, that would be determined by how they're licensed. If they're licensed as a boat, then the 50 cent would apply. But I can't tell you how they were licensed.
Well, I'm going to guess that they're not, because
It would seem that they're not.
what was brought up at the meeting last week was, as Rusty pointed out, the 50 cent a head thing came for an actual accountability of how many people are on that ship or that boat, because you can only hold so many out there. Whereas out here, you're probably pretty unlimited in what you can, So I kind of see that as being a wash myself. And I don't know about everybody else, but after having some more time to look at this, and if you look at what the casino is offering us, it looks to me like it's basically the maximum that we can get, unless their numbers go up. So in other words, if their numbers go down, we're still going to get this number for 10 years. We can't. No?
I agree, no, I'm agreeing.
Chris is shaking her head now.
Oh, well,
From what I read, it gets adjusted, but it only gets adjusted if the numbers go up. I didn't read anything about it if the numbers go down. So this is like a 10-year locked-in deal at this price for me, unless their numbers go up.
Could I ask a question? Is this agreement that we're looking at our desk up here exactly the same agreement that you passed out the other day?
Yeah, it's the exact same
Okay.
stuff. I just made me a copy of it because I figured nobody would bring theirs.
Thanks, Joy.
And yes, it,
let me.
No, I'm just saying that's kind of what I'm looking at is, we're getting kind of like, I don't know, don't look like too bad a deal to me. I mean, if their numbers go up, it's going to get adjusted at the end of the year. At the end, in August. It's not going to get adjusted in December if they exceed a certain number, but if their numbers go down, I didn't read anything where it said it's going to get adjusted the other way.
can I comment to that?
Well,
On your spreadsheet, it shows you where it goes up and down. On the spreadsheet, column number 2, the difference in the contract revenues.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's based on,
I'm reading the agreement here.
Yeah, it's based on $90 million, and these are showing you an
I
example.
understand that, but it doesn't say anything in the agreement about if it goes down, it's gonna get adjusted.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
Top of the second page, $1,200,000 annual payment shall be reduced.
Oh, there it is. I did not see that. I probably read it and it just,
Well, the way I read it as well, it's 1.2 million minus taxes, the wagering tax, and further reduced by the hotel motel tax received by the city.
So to finish answering your question when you started, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, Bill. On an average of the last 8 years, this has fluctuated $3,500.
yeah, I saw that before. Doesn't change a whole lot.
Not a whole lot.
And if I remember, well, you all look back, it actually dropped just a skosh from, as we said last meeting, 2012 was their peak year, I believe. Then it dropped a little bit, and then dropped just a little bit more. So, again, if that's the trend, and we don't accept this agreement right now, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen, but.
Anything else, Nate?
No, I'm just,
We'll come back to
it's
it.
just a work session, we're
Right.
just here to talk,
Right,
I'm just talking.
No, no problem. I didn't want to interrupt you.
No,
You're
that's
not
fine.
finished.
Don't worry, I'll blur it out if I
Okay,
get up there.
Tom, you had something?
Well, Bill had actually started commenting on it, was that the paragraph on the first page that's highlighted by number 1, where Bill was saying something about the payments shall be reduced by city share wagering tax and further reduced by hotel motel tax rate. Explain what that whole paragraph says, it means.
Well, they get taxed on whatever their gross revenues are by the gaming commission. Plus there's, I assume, you have hotel motel.
Yes, sir.
So whatever we get, so when they get taxed on their gaming revenues, we get a portion of that. And we get a portion of hotel motel tax. So whatever that comes into us, that's taken off the 1.2 million.
And that's expressed on these sheets as city tax.
That's exactly how the original agreement read.
Yeah, so, I mean, the idea is that in this agreement is we are theoretically to get 1.2 million max, unless their revenue decreases, and then there's a formula on that second page that you can see. That it really would be less. But the max appears to be 1.2 million.
They've never hit 90 million.
Yes, they are. Yes.
Yeah, 1 year, 2012.
2012.
Nothing, my bad. 390, 348, okay.
Yeah, I mean, so it sort of says here that to the extent that revenues drop below 90 million, then the 1.2 million annual payment will be reduced. Well, so what they're saying is, essentially, if you look at what they have for revenues, we're already starting with less than 1.2. We're going to implement this. Again, it's an 88 million, 80, as opposed to 90. But you take that amount and multiply it by 1.3%.
The red box on the spreadsheet is the historical revenues we would receive under the new agreement, and the average is 1.196 million. So there, the 1.2 is looking at background checking at the request of the mayor. The city of Marquette has a vote. In the last, they've had it for 13 years. They have a 25-year contract. Their total revenue collected is $13,489,000. They get from the revenues in the hotel motel $750,000, and then they get $166,000 document fee. In Lyons County, which is another newer casino, no admission fee, and they only get 0.05 of the net gaming revenue for 40 years.
Yeah, I've seen that, that's a lot of them been for a long time.
Osceola, no admission charge, they get 1% of the adjusted gross revenues. And it's 25 year, they haven't made any amendments to it.
That one actually is a boat.
Yeah, it's actually a vote. Bettendorf, or the Lady Luck, there was a question about the hotel motel tax on their comped rooms. They only get that when at any one night, more than 50% of the rooms are comped. So they're not getting that very often. And at the Lady Luck, their guaranteed minimum is $1,020,000. And that's for waiving the ordinance on the admission.
On our agreement, and I know you said it's a legal agreement. Is there anything on this agreement, Bill, that you would say, hey, you guys, you might want to look at the changing this or adding something? Have you had?
Well, when I sort of had the same conversation with Rusty as you did, what are the other, these are public records, what are the other agreements look like? Let's take a look at these other agreements. A number of casinos in the state, what do they do? I don't know, I can't tell you whether this is typical or atypical, because I saw it essentially when the rest of you saw the agreement. So without that information, it's hard for me to say whether, obviously $1.2 million is a significant amount of money. I don't think there's any question about that. But, if you're entitled to $5 million, then you think you're not, 1.2 doesn't look as good. So,
The council may not want to go this way, but I'm just going to throw out this question. Because we didn't really give you any questions, or if you were here, you're kind of, coming in cold a little bit. So I would ask, do you think that if you had a short time to review the other casinos or some of the casino agreements, that, at that point, that maybe you could say, hey,
well, at least I can tell you, here's the formula that's used, and if this is the typical formula, I can tell you that. At this point, I can't tell you, but,
Well, reading through them, they all are a little bit different. Scott County is 175 of the net gain. Lyon County is 50 cents a head and 0.5% of the net revenue. They all do it a little different. Waterloo is 50 cents per head and 0.5%, but on the third anniversary, it increases to 1% plus the 50 cents. Now see,
and what's the revenue, because like Lyon, 0.5% on, 90 million is
substantial.
substantial. I mean, that's doing a hell of a lot better than this agreement.
Well, see, now, Waterloo is on dry land.
I believe it is.
See, and they're getting 50 cents a head. But they didn't want to do it out here because they'd have to put a turnstile in so they could monitor what was going to the casino. But,
Well, Lyon County didn't adopt the ordinance.
They took the agreement in lieu of the
I think
50
he's
cent
talking about
head.
Waterloo.
yeah,
Waterloo's, yeah.
Grand Falls, did not adopt any ordinance. And it's a 40-year agreement, that's the newest property of
the way I'm looking at it is, you know, the proposal that they got out there for the 1.2 million is probably all right, but I think they should be paying a hotel motel tax on top of it. And what they're doing now, they're taking out the hotel motel tax away from that agreement. So that's all they're gonna pay.
That's exactly the same way they did the 1.7 also.
Right.
Yeah,
I
identical.
mean,
But it's
the
less-
agreement's not any different, that's what this, I mean, you know, the only thing is, that's different, this gives you an example, that spreadsheet, last spreadsheet. And it just shows that, you know, 1.7 divided by 12 is 141,666, you know, a monthly. And then you're just starting out with 12 million, 1.2 million, and you divide that by 12, and you're starting out with 100,000. I mean, it's the beginning number is just different, everything else is basically exactly the same.
But, I mean, we'll get our weekly gaming tax check, which runs between $7,000 and $8,000 a week.
Well, on the spreadsheet, you can see what our average collection for our weekly gaming and the hotel and motel.
The thing that I noticed in a lot of the agreements that I went through, the city was responsible for building a lot of things, like parking ramps, parking spaces. They leased the ground from the city and that, so there was a lot of responsibility that the city had after the fact, after the building was there. Riverside doesn't have to build any parking areas. They own the ground out there. They don't lease the ground. So we have our water treatment plant and our sewer plant that were, we had to put up for that. I think we were paid for that. I think there's a lot of other things that the casino paid for in the last 8 years as they went as well. But one of my concerns is, what are we projecting the money for? Rusty's got a good plan there to use some of it to get the community building put up. But other than that, where did the money go the last 8 years? We have some things here that we can show for. So a lot of it went into the general fund is what I understand, except for the last couple of years where Rusty and Lori have been tracking it and where that goes to as well.
Well, you know, we put this year's budget together with only 1 month of payment from the casino. And we're gonna survive. I would suggest that, you know, the money beyond our budget would go towards capital improvements within the community.
Did any of you that was out there and discussed this was Mr. Keough, did he refer to anything about why, interrupt me if I'm losing myself here, but, according to this, it's like we're basing everything off a $90 million, what's the word I want to use there?
Revenue.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
And actually, the last 2 years, he had less than that. Yet he's paying us right now, according to this agreement, for $90 million of his, per check. So he could actually be giving us less than that by what this agreement says right now. Not saying that he wouldn't adjust it next year, but why did he start out giving us as much as he did the first year when he doesn't have to? I don't know what 87 million times 0.13% is, but it's a lot less than 1.2 million. So I don't know if anybody heard anything from him as to why maybe.
He told us that the $500,000 difference between the previous contract and this contract, he felt that $500,000 a year went to help pay off the water and sewer plant, and they're paid off.
Exactly, that's what Bob just said, and I agree with you, both of you. I mean, yeah, I get that. I mean, to me, it looks like he's being generous here. Because if he, you know, he doesn't have to give us as much as he's giving us right here by this agreement. That's not, his last 2 years worth 90 million. So, I don't know. It's like me being kind of, like I say, I don't know what's gonna happen next year. If his numbers are down to 85 million, he could adjust that and we'll lose, you know, some money, but.
Bill, is this contract retroactive?
I don't believe so. I mean, it doesn't say that. It says it's effective on,
When we sign it?
the Black Day of September.
Right.
He
And
did
they
say-
would go back.
I thought-
Yeah, it's like September 1.
A month or so.
Yeah, September 1.
A month or, thereabouts.
But if you wait
He's
till
not gonna hold back
October,
for
he's
6
not
months.
coming back.
What's that?
I'm leaning on if you wait till October to get this
Well,
resolved, he's not gonna.
that's what I was gonna say. We had a
And you're at
5-minute
100,000.
We had a 5-minute meeting last week, and I don't know why we couldn't, well, I'm not saying we could, but I was gonna suggest that we try to have one in the next, how many days we got left?
The 22nd today.
Yeah, you know, the next week, if we could have a 5-minute meeting,
For the council meeting you're talking about,
yeah.
to pass this? We can't,
Because
actually,
if we don't,
no.
we're gonna lose,
I was letting you.
Bill's fees for the night.
Yeah. Before we're done here, Nate, I was hoping to try to set a special meeting for
Yeah,
council.
you gotta let go.
That's good enough.
I think
I'll
we're
take half of that.
Well, I'm sure we would be, but. Okay. I just don't, I'm waiting to hear more people say why we shouldn't agree with this, because I pretty much would myself.
Okay, so you say you would, Bob, he would,
I don't.
sounds like. Tom, have you got other questions, or
No.
do you think the attorney, any one of you first three guys, our attorney Bill Sewell, needs to do any more research on this? This agreement that we have here, as far as the number of years that we're locking our, signing up for, or any
Well,
other?
actually, I was hoping that he would have done that before we had the meeting tonight, but apparently he wasn't given the information, so.
Any thoughts on, I'm gonna come down to you guys, any thoughts on you guys, is that something that you want Bill to research any further, or has he done?
He's already looked at the agreement,
He has,
weeks ago.
but I'm just putting it out on the table, you guys are gonna make the ruling, not tonight, but, you know, looking through some of these other agreements, there might be a sentence or two or a paragraph that said, you know, it has something to do with the agreement in the contract, not necessarily money, that we, you know, as an example, maybe at the end of the 10 years, we want to say, we'll lock this agreement in, you know, we have the option of locking it in again for another 8 or 10 years.
I don't want to do that, because I'm sure I won't be sitting up here in 8 or 10 years. I think that's the people that are sitting up here in 8 or 10 years is responsibility.
They've locked in numerous agreements for 40 years, or one agreement, so.
Yeah, well, they're not here and they're not us.
Yep, no,
And they don't have, yeah, we're not comparing apples with apples here, you know? It's not, this place out here is unique compared to most everything else in this packet. When you look at all these other casinos. Look at the income, first of all. There's not too many of them in here that have the income that place does. We're damn lucky to have it. Little bitty town like this.
okay, Chris, what you've heard, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Well, you know, some of these agreements were really lengthy, and they covered a lot of interesting points. I'm sure that their complexity was a lot more than ours, as Bob pointed out. I did notice a clause in there, arbitration for disputes. That might be something we could look at. It'd be an easy way of being able to sit down with them if something comes up later on changes in state law or whatever. Some of them included termination clauses. And what I thought was most interesting, if a new casino locates within 50 miles, all bets are off. If there's a smoking ban initiated by the state, all bans are off. That's going to really impact their income out there. Changes in wagering tax percentage would also change that. And some of them spell that out more explicitly than we have in ours. I think the biggest thing on my mind when I look at this is that we don't have a big population area here. We're not a Des Moines, we're not a Davenport, whatever. Those people had complex agreements and a lot of items in the fire when they put their stuff together, and we don't have that. If Cedar Rapids ever gets a chance to jump in again and build a casino, they absolutely will do it. I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind. Will they be able to? Who knows? We don't know that. What I see the casino doing here is tying what they give us to what their revenues are as a percentage. If theirs goes up, ours goes up. If theirs goes down, ours goes down. And if I were in Dan Keel's shoes, I'd be doing the same thing. You know, I'm not going to lock myself into a flat fee when I don't even know what I have coming down the pipe. That makes sense to me. 5 to 8 year time frame would seem logical, but when you're dealing with someone who's locking their fees into what they're making, whether it goes up or whether they go down, if you hedge your bet by saying, well, if they change the amount of the wagering tax, then we'll look at it again, then it probably doesn't really make a lot of difference whether it's 5 years or whether it's 40, because those things are all going to move together. So as far as I'm concerned, pass the one we've got. If you add a head tax on there, he's just going to take that off too. You're not going to get ahead on this. You're not going to get ahead.
Okay, Ralph?
Yeah, it's in here that it's adjusted each year on August 31st, so up or down, it'll be adjusted if we, you know, I was thinking we was talking about, I don't know whether I missed it or not, I didn't see anything in about the agreement lasting 10 years, was it?
8 years.
8 years.
22.
And it would be adjusted, we would be able to adjust it on August 31st of each year, up or down. And they're going to take that on their gaming revenues. And like he told us, if Cedar Rapids goes in, he knows the revenue will go down 20% or more. So, and ours will go down. The only thing I'd like to see them paying the hotel motel tax on top of that, but it doesn't look like they're gonna wanna do that. It looked like that was about 200 some thousand a year.
What's on what,
Well,
206?
Huh?
206, average of 206 for the last 8 years.
I'd like to see that on top of the 1.35. Because that would probably stay pretty constant. The gaming revenues. And I think they're kind of anticipating with the economy and stuff, their revenues may go down. So it probably won't be 1.2 million. It'll probably be under that in the end, but I don't know. That's what I don't know whether, I don't think he would sign anything a lot better. Because that's probably all he's gonna want to do. He might, we could talk sweet to him, he might want a little bit.
Okay, so
I think we might have to go with it.
it sounds like everybody's kind of spoke their opinion, and based on what everybody's saying, this agreement is satisfactory to everybody. And so the next thing is, Rusty's talking about some, fulfilling some grants, et cetera, based on this, the approval of this. I don't know why Rusty and Lori have to be here for us to have a short 5-minute meeting.
The law requires us to be.
You two here,
Yes.
Well, for what?
Somebody
We have
has
to
to do
report
it.
to
No, but I'm saying, can't Becky be here?
No.
Then why can't
City
you
clerk,
do it?
city
Can we do that by teleconference? Can they participate
I'm
off-site here?
On
I
Wednesday?
work for you.
On Wednesday?
Oh,
I'm just getting to some time
You're
frames.
saying because they're gonna be,
They're gonna be at the League of Cities meetings on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We could have it Saturday morning.
No.
Well, how about Tuesday?
We can have it Tuesday.
I put the notice out right now.
Can't have it Tuesday.
Not Tuesday, well, you could have it.
You have to
you could
have
it 7:30.
24-hour notice.
You can
You can have it at 7 o'clock.
You can have it at 7 o'clock.
8 o'clock tomorrow.
yeah.
Is the 7 o'clock meeting okay with everybody tomorrow night?
It's not 24 hours.
7:30.
I think it's 7:15 then.
It's not.
Okay, so, let's put this on let's make an agenda and put it on for tomorrow night. Whatever you feel comfortable with, Rusty, 7:15? 7:10? 7:15? Does that meet everybody's approval? Do you think that that's okay, Nate?
I'll make it.
Tom, tomorrow night? Chris?
Get blood though, gotta get blood, might be a
I would
little
say
slow.
7:15. 7:15.
Okay.
Is that 7:15 okay, Rob?
Can you do
Yeah.
10 more?
Pardon me?
Mhm.
You can have posted in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we willing to give up our meeting revenue so we can make this decision?
Tomorrow night, you mean?
Yeah.
You want to put that on?
That's an individual decision.
Yeah,
Every
I mean, I
member
think
makes
the
their
ordinance
own
says
It's complicated.
you
I think
pay.
that's already covered.
call. And I'll put you through that again.
Okay, so, thanks everybody, see you tomorrow night, 7:15, meeting adjourned.